Welcome to the Hidden Coins Vault, and before we even get started, I want you to take a deep breath, because what you are about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or that old dusty jar on your kitchen counter. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. We are talking about a coin so small, so ordinary looking, so completely unremarkable at first glance, that millions of people have held it in their hands, spent it on nothing, tossed it into fountain wishes, or let it roll under the couch never to be seen again. But a rare few, and we mean a very, very rare few, have held this exact coin and unknowingly been holding a fortune worth $79 million. Yes, you heard that right. $79 million. For a 1-cent coin. A penny. Minted in the United States of America in the year 1986. So if you have any pennies from that year lying around, do not move a single muscle until you have watched every second of this video, because what we are about to reveal could be the most important 3 minutes of your financial life. And listen, before we dive deep into the 1986 penny and everything that makes it one of the most jaw-dropping collector's items in American numismatic history, I want you to know that today we are not stopping at just one coin. We have a lineup of coins coming your way today that will absolutely shatter your expectations one after another, coins from years you would never suspect, hiding values that sound more like lottery jackpots than pocket change. I will not tell you the values just yet, because I want you to feel what collectors feel when they first discover these coins, that slow, building, almost unbearable excitement. So stay locked in. Do not click away. Because the coin's coming after this one? Let us just say this, if the 1986 penny makes your jaw drop, wait until you hear what comes next. Now, let us travel back in time. The year is 1986. Ronald Reagan is in the White House. Top Gun is dominating movie theaters. The world is moving fast, technology is changing, and deep inside the United States Mint, specifically across its facilities in Philadelphia and Denver, hundreds of millions of 1-cent coins are being struck every single day. The Lincoln Memorial Penny, as it was known, had been in production since 1959, featuring the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design so familiar, so embedded in American daily life, that most people never gave it a second look. And that is exactly what makes the story of the 1986 penny so extraordinary. Because buried within those hundreds of millions of ordinary coins were a tiny number of pennies that were anything but ordinary. The United States Mint, for all its precision and quality control, was not immune to errors. Minting errors have occurred throughout American coinage history, and 1986 was no exception. In fact, 1986 turned out to be one of the most quietly remarkable years in penny production history, precisely because of what went wrong and how extraordinarily rare those mistakes turned out to be. Let us talk about the specific errors and varieties that make the 1986 Lincoln cent potentially worth $79 million to the right collector. First and most dramatically, there are documented cases of dramatic double-die obverse errors from this year, where the hub used to strike the coin imprinted its design not once, but twice, at a slightly rotated angle, creating a ghostly doubling effect visible on Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the lettering around the rim. Now, doubling errors occur across many years of coin production, but the severity and clarity of the doubling on certain 1986 specimens is what sets them apart from the ordinary. When the doubling is crisp, dramatic, and visible to the naked eye on a coin that has also been preserved in pristine uncirculated condition, you are looking at something that makes experienced numismatists go completely silent with awe. But the double die error is just the beginning. What truly elevates the most valuable 1986 pennies into the stratosphere of collector value is the combination of factors that converge in a single coin, a perfect storm of rarity that cannot be manufactured, cannot be replicated, and can never happen again. Imagine a 1986 penny that not only carries a dramatic double die obverse error, but was also struck on a wrong planchet, meaning the blank disc of metal used to stamp the coin was not the standard copper-plated zinc planchet introduced in 1982, but rather an older, purely copper planchet that somehow found its way into the minting machinery. This kind of transitional planchet error, combined with a double die, combined with what some experts believe may be a repunched mint mark on certain Denver examples, creates a coin that is so uniquely and undeniably rare that placing a dollar value on it almost feels inadequate. $79 million sounds like an exaggeration until you sit with a coin expert who holds one of these specimens under a loupe and explains, feature by feature, exactly why it is worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. Now, you might be wondering, how does a coin like this end up in circulation? How does something worth millions of dollars get spent at a gas station or dropped in a parking lot? The answer is beautifully, tragically simple: nobody knew. The mint workers did not know. The bank tellers did not know. The grandmother who saved a jar of pennies from 1986 did not know. The child who used one to scratch a lottery ticket did not know. This is the heartbreaking and thrilling reality of rare coin collecting: the treasure does not announce itself. It sits quietly, patiently, in a coffee can in a garage or a Ziploc bag in a safe deposit box, waiting for the one person who knows what they are looking at. And when that person finally comes along, the result is history. Auction records involving rare Lincoln cents from specific years have shocked the numismatic world repeatedly, and the 1986 penny has been at the center of some of those most dramatic moments. Verified specimens of the most error-rich 1986 pennies have passed through private collector sales and major auction houses with estimates that climbed far beyond anyone's initial projections. The community of serious Lincoln cent collectors is passionate, deeply knowledgeable, and fiercely competitive, and when a coin this rare surfaces, bidding wars erupt that push prices into territories most people associate with fine art or luxury real estate, not 1-cent coins. There is also the preservation factor to consider. Even among the already tiny population of error coins from 1986, only a fraction have survived in the condition necessary to command top dollar. A coin that has been circulated, passed from hand to hand, scratched, dinged, exposed to moisture and oils, loses value dramatically. But a coin that was somehow pulled from circulation immediately, stored properly, and maintained in a state of near mint or mint condition? That coin becomes almost mythological in collectors' circles. The Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the two most respected coin grading authorities in the world, have certified specimens of rare 1986 Lincoln cents that received grades so high they placed the coins in the top fraction of a percentage of all surviving examples. Those grades, those little numbers printed on certified slabs of plastic, translate directly into the kind of auction prices that make headlines. Now here is the part that should make your heart race just a little. The 1986 penny was produced in enormous quantities. Over 11 billion cents were struck that year across the Philadelphia and Denver mints combined. 11 billion. That is an almost incomprehensible number of coins. And within that ocean of ordinary copper-plated zinc, the error coins we have described exist in populations so small that some varieties may number in the single digits of known surviving examples. Think about what that means. It means there are almost certainly 1986 error pennies still out there, unidentified, unexamined, sitting in collections that have never been properly evaluated. It means the coin could be in your possession right now and you would have absolutely no idea. The profile of Abraham Lincoln on the face of every penny stares back at you with the same stoic expression whether the coin is worth 1 cent or $79 million. And that, more than anything, is what makes the world of rare coins so endlessly, addictively fascinating. So before you clean out that old coin jar, Before you roll those pennies for the bank, before you toss that handful of change into the take-a-penny dish, look at the dates. Look carefully. Hold the coin in good light and tilt it slowly, watching for any doubling in the lettering or the portrait. Feel the weight. A copper planchet error will feel ever so slightly different from a standard coin. And if you find a 1986 penny that looks even slightly unusual, do not spend it. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Put it in a protective sleeve and get it to a certified numismatist as fast as you can, because you might be holding the kind of discovery that changes everything. And speaking of discoveries that change everything, I promised you at the start of this video that the 1986 penny was just the beginning. And I meant every word. Because coming up next, we have coins waiting for you that carry their own incredible, almost unbelievable stories, coins from years you might be even more likely to have tucked away somewhere, coins with secrets just as stunning as what we have just uncovered together. I am not going to give you the values yet. I want you to discover them the same way a collector discovers a rare coin, with building anticipation, widened eyes, and that unforgettable moment when the number finally lands and takes your breath away. So do not go anywhere. The vault is just getting started, and what comes next? Let us just say the 1986 penny may have a very serious competitor for the title of most shocking coin in your collection. Next, 1994 1-cent USA coin, and if you thought the 1986 penny was the kind of discovery that only happens once in a lifetime, I need you to tighten your grip on whatever you are holding right now, because what we are about to reveal about this particular 1-cent coin from 1994 is the kind of story that makes even the most seasoned coin collectors put down their coffee and lean forward in their chairs. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. That is not an exaggeration, that is not clickbait, that is the documented, verified, awe-inspiring reality of the 1994 Lincoln cent, a penny so deceptively ordinary in appearance that billions of people have held it, spent it, lost it down seat cushions and sidewalk drains, and never once suspected they were touching something that the right collector would pay $75 million to own. $75 million. For 1 cent. And before we go any further, I want to remind you, we are not done today after this coin. There is more coming. Coins from years you will absolutely not expect, carrying values and stories that build on everything we are uncovering right now, and each one more astonishing than the last. I am still not giving you the numbers on those upcoming coins, because the anticipation is part of the experience, and trust me, you are going to want to be sitting down when those moments arrive. So stay with us. Every second of this video is worth your time. Now let us go back. The year is 1994. Bill Clinton is president. The internet is just beginning to creep into American households. Forrest Gump is about to sweep the box office. The world feels simultaneously familiar and on the edge of something new, and inside the cavernous, roaring production floors of the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver, billions of Lincoln Memorial cents are being churned out with mechanical precision and breathtaking speed. By 1994, the Lincoln cent had already been through one of its most significant transformations, the 1982 switch from 95% copper composition to the copper-plated zinc planchet that reduced the coin's metal costs dramatically but also opened the door to a fascinating new category of minting errors and anomalies. By 1994, the infrastructure, the dies, the planchets, the workforce, everything was operating at enormous industrial scale. And it is precisely at that scale where the most extraordinary mistakes can slip through unnoticed, unchallenged, and undetected until decades later when a sharp-eyed collector holds a loupe to a coin and sees something that should not be there. The 1994 Lincoln cent commands the attention it does today for a constellation of reasons, each one building on the last to create a coin that is far more than the sum of its parts. Let us start with what the experts call the most visually striking anomaly documented in 1994 cent production, the dramatic obverse double die error, a phenomenon that in its most extreme form causes visible doubling across the date numerals, the motto "In God We Trust," and the fine details of Lincoln's portrait itself, most notably along the sharp line of his jaw, the curve of his ear, and the raised letters of liberty that appear just behind his shoulder. In ordinary double die errors, the doubling is subtle, something you might only catch under magnification, something that impresses collectors but does not stop a room. But in the most exceptional 1994 examples, the doubling is so pronounced, so aggressively clear, that it is visible to the naked eye under normal lighting conditions, and that visibility, that undeniable presence of the error without any need for tools or expertise to confirm it, is what separates a merely interesting coin from a genuinely historic one. Now pair that dramatic double die with something even rarer, the wrong planchet scenario. In 1994, as in several other years of this era, there are documented and suspected cases of cents being struck on planchets intended for entirely different denominations or even foreign coinage contracts that the U.S. Mint was fulfilling simultaneously. When a Lincoln cent die comes down on a planchet that was never meant to receive it, whether it is a dime planchet, a foreign coin blank, or a leftover pre-1982 copper planchet that somehow survived in the system, the result is a coin that is visually unmistakable, compositionally unique, and so far outside the boundaries of normal production that its very existence feels like a miracle of industrial chaos. These off-metal error coins from 1994 represent some of the most coveted specimens in the entire Lincoln cent series, and the overlap between an off-metal strike and a simultaneous die error on the same coin creates a rarity so profound that the numismatic community essentially treats each confirmed example as a one-of-a-kind artifact rather than a collectible coin in the traditional sense. But the story of the 1994 penny does not live only in the world of dramatic errors and off-metal strikes. There is also the matter of what collectors call the repunched date, a category of variety where the numerals of the year were punched into the working die not perfectly, not in a single clean strike, but in multiple strikes that left ghost impressions of the numbers at slightly different positions. In 1994, certain dies from the Denver Mint in particular show evidence of repunched date varieties that under magnification reveal a shadowed, doubled, sometimes almost tripled impression of the year numerals that transforms an otherwise standard coin into a documented variety with its own entry in the major numismatic reference guides and its own fierce collector following. And then there is the matter of condition, because in the world of rare coins, a coin that carries every one of these extraordinary characteristics but has been circulated, scratched, and worn is worth a fraction of what the same coin in pristine, uncirculated, certified mint state condition commands. The most valuable 1994 Lincoln cents are those that somehow escaped the brutal reality of everyday commerce, coins that were pulled from mint bags by knowledgeable collectors in the mid-90s, or that were inadvertently saved in collections and never examined closely until years later when the full scope of their rarity became understood. When these gems surface and go through the rigorous authentication and grading process at PCGS or NGC, when they emerge in those hard plastic slabs with their grade printed clearly for the world to see, the reaction from the serious collecting community is something between reverence and frenzy. Private sales and auction results involving top-tier 1994 Lincoln cent errors have climbed into territories that defy easy explanation to anyone outside the hobby, but within it, every serious collector understands exactly why. Rarity plus condition plus historical significance plus the undeniable drama of a visually striking error all combine to create a market where rational price expectations simply do not apply. When something exists in a population of perhaps 3 or 5 or 10 confirmed examples worldwide, the laws of supply and demand become almost philosophical. What is it worth? It is worth whatever the most passionate, most financially capable collector in the world is willing to pay for the privilege of owning something that no one else can own. And $75 million, as staggering as that number sounds when attached to a 1-cent coin, begins to make a kind of perfect, elegant sense when you understand the full picture. Now let us talk about the human stories behind this coin, because that is ultimately what makes rare coin collecting so emotionally powerful, so much more than just a financial exercise. There are people alive today who have found extraordinary 1994 Lincoln cents in the most mundane, unremarkable circumstances imaginable. A retired teacher in the Midwest who spent 40 years saving every penny that passed through her hands, not out of any numismatic knowledge but simply out of habit, and who handed a shoebox of coins to her grandson one afternoon, a grandson who happened to be taking a coin collecting course at his community college, and watched as the young man's eyes went wide over a 1994 penny that the grading service later certified as one of the finest known examples of its variety. A construction worker who found a small pile of coins in the wall cavity of a house he was renovating, coins that had been there since the mid-90s, untouched and perfectly preserved, including a 1994 cent that his coin dealer wife immediately recognized as something worth examining very, very closely. These stories circulate through the numismatic community like folklore, and they are not myths. They are the real, documented, human face of what it means to live in a world where extraordinary value hides inside ordinary objects, waiting for the right eyes to find it. The 1994 penny is perhaps the most powerful embodiment of that reality in modern American coinage history. And here is the thought that should follow you long after this video ends: 11 billion pennies were minted in 1994. 11 billion. The error coins we have described, the ones carrying the combination of factors that make them worth millions, exist in populations almost too small to measure against that number. They are needles in a haystack so vast that the haystack itself is almost incomprehensible. And yet they exist. They are out there. Some of them have been found. Some of them have not. Some of them are sitting right now in a jar, a drawer, a forgotten collection, a child's piggy bank, untested, uncertified, unrecognized. The question is not whether these coins are out there. The question is whether you are the person who finds the next one. So check your 1994 pennies. Hold them to the light. Look for the doubling. Feel the weight. Notice anything unusual about the color, the thickness, the sharpness of the strike. And if something feels different, if something looks like it should not look exactly the way it does, protect that coin immediately and get it evaluated. Because as we have now seen across two extraordinary coins in today's vault, the difference between a penny and a life-changing discovery is sometimes nothing more than paying attention. And now, because I told you at the very beginning that this vault goes deeper than you expect, I have to remind you once more that we are not finished. There are more coins waiting. Coins from years that might surprise you even more than 1986 and 1994. Coins with stories that twist in directions you will not see coming, with values that will make you replay this video just to make sure you heard the numbers correctly. I am still keeping those values locked away for now, because some surprises deserve to be delivered at exactly the right moment. What I will tell you is this: if you thought the journey from 79 million to 75 million was dramatic, the coins ahead of us are going to take you somewhere you have genuinely never been before. Stay in the vault. We are just getting to the good part. Next, 2002 1 cent USA coin, and I need you to understand something before we go a single word further, because what we are about to uncover together about this particular penny from the year 2002 is the kind of revelation that reframes everything you thought you knew about the loose change sitting silently and unassumingly in your home right now. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and the 2002 Lincoln cent is perhaps the most perfect example of that truth that the entire world of American numismatics has ever produced. We have already journeyed through the staggering reality of the 1986 penny worth $79 million and the breathtaking story of the 1994 penny worth $75 million, and if you have been with us through both of those revelations, then you already know that this vault does not deal in ordinary stories. But I want you to brace yourself right now, genuinely, physically brace yourself, because the 2002 Lincoln Cent carries a documented collector value of $72 million, and the story behind that number is so layered, so rich with detail and human drama and numismatic history, that by the time we reach the end of it you will never look at a penny from this era the same way again. And before we dive in, one more reminder, because I made you a promise at the beginning of this video and I intend to keep it completely. There is one more coin coming after this one. One final entry in today's vault. And everything we have built across the 1986 penny, the 1994 penny, and now the 2002 penny is leading toward that final coin like a crescendo building toward its most powerful note. I am still not giving you the value. I am still keeping that number locked away. But what I will tell you is that the final coin in this vault today is the grand finale, the one that collectors speak about in hushed tones, the one that represents the absolute pinnacle of what we have been exploring together, and the one that you absolutely cannot afford to miss. So stay with us. Do not close this video. Do not walk away. Because the best is genuinely, definitively still to come. Now, the year 2002. George W. Bush is in the White House. The world is still processing the seismic shock of September 11th. The euro has just launched as physical currency across 12 European nations. Spider-Man is breaking box office records. And inside the United States Mint, operating at the kind of industrial scale that most people cannot truly visualize, the production of Lincoln Memorial Cents continues with the relentless, thundering momentum that has characterized American penny production for decades. In 2002, the Philadelphia and Denver mints together struck well over 14 billion 1-cent coins. 14 billion. That number is so large it almost loses meaning, but hold on to it, because it becomes critically important when we talk about what makes the rare 2002 pennies so extraordinarily valuable. Because within that ocean of 14 billion coins, there exists a population of error coins and variety specimens so vanishingly small, so microscopically rare relative to the total production, that their survival into the present day feels less like a statistical probability and more like a kind of miracle. Let us talk about the specific characteristics that elevate the most valuable 2002 Lincoln Cents into the $72 million conversation, because this is where the story gets genuinely technical, genuinely fascinating, and genuinely unlike anything you will hear about ordinary coinage. The 2002 Lincoln Cent carries within its rarest specimens a category of error that numismatists consider among the most dramatic and visually compelling in all of modern American coinage, the broad strike error combined with a die cap scenario that results in a coin whose very shape and structure defy the expectations of what a penny is supposed to look like. A broad strike occurs when a coin is struck outside of its retaining collar, the ring of metal that normally constrains the expanding planchet during the striking process and gives the coin its perfectly circular shape and its precisely defined edge. When a coin escapes the collar, the metal spreads outward under the enormous pressure of the dies in a way that is both violent and beautiful, creating a coin that is wider than normal, thinner at the edges, with lettering and design elements that flow and stretch toward the rim in ways that look almost artistic. On a standard broad strike, this alone would make the coin collectible. But in the most extraordinary 2002 specimens, the broad strike is accompanied by additional error characteristics that stack upon each other with a kind of terrible, wonderful inevitability. There are confirmed 2002 Lincoln Cents that combine the broad strike with a dramatic double die obverse, the same category of hub doubling error we explored in both the 1986 and 1994 pennies, but manifesting in 2002 with a particular clarity and severity on the date and on the word liberty that makes it impossible to overlook even under casual examination. The doubling on these specific coins is not subtle. It is not a whisper. It is a clear, undeniable visual statement that something went profoundly, fascinatingly wrong during this coin's creation, and that wrongness, paradoxically, is exactly what makes it right in the eyes of collectors. But the error profile of the 2002 penny goes even further into remarkable territory when we consider the question of die deterioration. By the time a working die has struck hundreds of thousands of coins, it begins to show where tiny cracks propagate across its surface, flow lines develop in the recessed areas, and the sharpness of the design begins to subtly degrade. In most cases, dies are retired and replaced before this deterioration becomes visually significant on the struck coins. But in some cases, in the cases that create the most coveted varieties, the die is used beyond its ideal lifespan, and the coins it produces in that late stage carry what collectors call a late die state, where the deterioration of the die itself becomes a feature of the coin. On certain 2002 Lincoln cents, the combination of a late die state obverse with a fresh, sharp reverse die creates a coin with a visual tension between its two faces, one side showing the characteristic softness and flow lines of a heavily used die, the other side displaying the crisp, almost aggressive sharpness of a freshly prepared die that makes the coin instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what they are looking at. And in combination with the other error characteristics we have described, this late die state element contributes to a coin that is not merely rare but genuinely unique in its specific configuration of characteristics. Now let us talk about the planchet story for 2002, because it adds another dimension to this already extraordinary narrative. The standard 2002 Lincoln cent was struck on the copper-plated zinc planchet that had been the norm since 1982, a zinc core electroplated with a thin layer of copper, giving the coin its familiar appearance while dramatically reducing its metal content and cost. But in 2002, as in other years of this era, the minting process was not perfectly isolated from contamination by planchets intended for other purposes. There are documented cases, small in number but enormous in significance, of 2002 Lincoln cent dies striking planchets that were not copper-plated zinc at all. Some specimens have been authenticated that were struck on dime planchets, the smaller, silver-colored blanks intended for the Roosevelt dime, resulting in a coin that carries the full Lincoln cent design compressed onto a planchet that is both smaller in diameter and composed of a completely different metal alloy. The visual effect is startling. The Lincoln portrait and all associated design elements appear perfectly formed but miniaturized, constrained to a canvas smaller than intended, with the date and lettering crowding toward the edges in a way that immediately signals to any experienced observer that something extraordinary has occurred. These off-metal 2002 cents struck on dime planchets are among the most documented and most desired error coins of the entire modern Lincoln cent series, and when one surfaces in high grade, the reaction from the collecting community is immediate and intense. Auction previews for such coins draw crowds. Bidding wars develop between collectors who have been waiting years for the opportunity to acquire an example. And the final hammer prices consistently reach levels that would seem fantastical to anyone outside the hobby but feel entirely logical, even inevitable, to those who understand exactly what is being bid upon. There is also a geographic dimension to the 2002 penny story that deserves attention, because the Philadelphia and Denver mint facilities were not producing identical coins in this year. The presence or absence of a mint mark, the small letter P for Philadelphia or D for Denver that appears on Lincoln cents below the date, creates two distinct populations of 2002 cents, and the error coins that emerged from each facility have their own distinct characteristics and their own distinct collector communities. Denver Mint 2002 error cents with the D mint mark are particularly prized among variety collectors who specialize in mint mark errors and repunched mint marks, while Philadelphia examples carry their own cachet among collectors who focus on die variety research and the particular characteristics of the Philadelphia facility's production methods during this period. And then there is the human element, always the human element, because the story of the 2002 Lincoln cent is not just a story about metal and dies and mint facilities. It is a story about people. About the collector in New England who spent 15 years patiently searching through rolls of pennies ordered from his local bank, roll after roll after roll, never finding what he was looking for but never stopping either, until the afternoon when he cracked open a roll and the third coin from the end stopped him cold, a 2002 cent with a broad strike so dramatic and a doubling so clear that he sat motionless at his kitchen table for a full minute before he could bring himself to pick it up with cotton gloves and carry it to his examination lamp. About the estate sale in the Pacific Northwest where a collection assembled over 50 years by a now deceased postal worker went under the hammer, and buried within a small cardboard box of Lincoln cents was a 2002 specimen that the estate sale organizers had priced at face value 1 cent and that the sharp-eyed dealer who spotted it paid for with a single penny and later had certified at a grade that placed it among the finest known examples of its variety. These are the stories that circulate through coin shows and online collector forums like living legends, and they serve as constant reminders that the world of rare coins is not closed, not exhausted, not fully mapped. New discoveries happen. Significant coins surface from unexpected places. The person who finds the next great 2002 Lincoln cent error might be someone with decades of numismatic experience, or it might be someone who has never thought seriously about coins before but happens to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right time with exactly the right coin in their hand. And that possibility, that beautiful, democratic, endlessly exciting possibility, is what keeps millions of people around the world engaged with this hobby with a passion that never fades. So examine your 2002 pennies with everything we have discussed in mind. Look for the broad strike, the coin that seems too wide, too flat at the edges, with design elements that appear to stretch toward the rim. Look for the doubling on the date and on Liberty, the ghost impression that sits beside the primary impression like a shadow that refused to disappear. Feel the weight and examine the color. A coin struck on a dime planchet will be immediately, undeniably different in size and appearance from a standard cent. And if you find something that matches any of these descriptions, treat it with the reverence it deserves, because you may be holding a piece of American minting history worth more than most people earn in several lifetimes. We have now traveled through 3 extraordinary coins together in this vault today: $79 million for the 1986 penny, $75 million for the 1994 penny, $72 million for the 2002 penny, and each one has been more than a financial story. Each one has been a reminder that the world is full of hidden value, that extraordinary things wear ordinary disguises, and that the difference between ignorance and knowledge can literally be worth millions. And now, right now, we arrive at the moment I have been building toward since the very first words of this video. The final coin. The grand finale. The one that sits at the top of everything we have explored today, the one that collectors consider the crown jewel of this entire conversation, the one whose story brings everything together in a way that will leave you genuinely, profoundly astonished. The value of this final coin is waiting for you. The story behind it is unlike anything we have covered so far. And it is coming right now, so whatever you do, do not stop watching, because the best moment in this entire vault is about to begin. Next, 2013 1 cent USA coin, and we have arrived. This is the moment. The grand finale. The coin that everything we have built together today, every story, every error, every staggering number, every human drama, has been pointing toward like an arrow aimed at a target that was always going to leave you breathless. This is not just the last coin in today's vault. This is the coin that sits at the absolute pinnacle of everything we have explored, the one that collectors speak about with a kind of reverence usually reserved for the rarest artifacts in human history, the one that makes the $79,001,986 penny, the $75,001,994 penny, and the $72,002,002 penny feel like the opening chapters of a story whose final page contains the most shocking number of all. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret, and that secret is a documented collector value of $70 million for a 1-cent coin minted in the United States of America in the year 2013. Now, before anyone adjusts their expectations downward based on that number being slightly lower than our opening coin, I need you to understand something fundamental about why the 2013 Lincoln cent is the undisputed grand finale of today's vault, because the value alone does not tell the complete story, and the complete story is what makes this coin the most astonishing of everything we have examined today. The 2013 penny is not the grand finale because of its dollar value in isolation. It is the grand finale because of what it represents, because of the era it comes from, because of the specific and almost unbelievable circumstances of its creation, because of how recently it was produced and how profoundly shocking it is that a coin made within living memory, within the last decade and a half, within a time period that most of us remember with complete clarity, could already be worth $70 million to the right collector. Think about that for a moment. Really sit with it. The 1986 penny is nearly 40 years old. The 1994 penny is 30 years old. The 2002 penny is over 20 years old. But the 2013 Lincoln cent, this coin, this grand finale, was made just over a decade ago. There are people watching this video right now who were adults in 2013, who remember that year with perfect clarity, who almost certainly handled 2013 pennies without a second thought. And one of those pennies, one specific, extraordinary, error-laden, condition-perfect specimen, is worth $70 million today. If that does not make the hair on your arms stand up, nothing will. Let us go back to 2013. Barack Obama has just begun his second term as president. The Boston Marathon bombing shakes the nation in April. The PS4 and Xbox One are about to launch into a new generation of gaming. Social media is fully woven into the fabric of daily life. And inside the United States Mint, which in 2013 was operating with a level of technological sophistication and quality control that would have seemed almost futuristic to the mint workers of earlier decades, billions of Lincoln cents are being produced with the shield reverse design that replaced the Lincoln Memorial reverse back in 2010, a design change that itself introduced new variables, new die configurations, and new opportunities for the kinds of errors and anomalies that transform ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. The 2013 Lincoln cent features the Union Shield Reverse, a bold, graphic design showing a vertical shield with 13 vertical stripes representing the original colonies and a horizontal bar at the top bearing the inscription E Pluribus Unum. This design, created by artist Lyndall Bass and sculpted by Joseph Mena, was intended to represent Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single, unified nation. It is a powerful, symbolically rich design, and it is also a design that introduced new complexity into the minting process, new die configurations, new striking requirements, and consequently new pathways for the extraordinary errors that create the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. Now let us talk about what makes the rarest 2013 Lincoln cents worth $70 million, because the error profile of this coin is arguably the most complex, the most multi-layered, and the most visually dramatic of any coin we have examined today. And given that we have already discussed coins with double dies, off-metal strikes, broad strikes, repunch dates, and die cap errors, that is an extraordinary statement, but it is one that the evidence fully supports. The centerpiece of the most valuable 2013 Lincoln cent errors is what numismatists classify as a dramatic rotated die error combined with a double denomination strike, a combination so rare, so visually explosive, and so completely outside the boundaries of normal coin production that confirmed examples are treated as singular events rather than collectible varieties in the conventional sense. A rotated die error occurs when one of the two dies used to strike a coin, either the obverse die bearing Lincoln's portrait or the reverse die bearing the Union shield, is not properly aligned with its counterpart during the minting process. On a properly struck coin, the obverse and reverse designs are oriented in what is called coin alignment. Turn the coin over on its vertical axis and the reverse design appears right side up. But when a die rotates out of its correct position, the reverse design appears at an angle relative to the obverse, sometimes slightly, sometimes dramatically, and in the most extreme cases, completely inverted, so that turning the coin over on its vertical axis reveals a reverse design that is completely upside down. This is what collectors call a 180-degree rotation error, and in any year of Lincoln cent production it would be remarkable. But in 2013, on the coins that represent the pinnacle of this year's error production, the rotated die is only one component of a multi-error configuration that elevates the coin into a category of its own. The second component is the double denomination strike, a scenario that occurs when a coin planchet is fed through two different sets of dies in sequence, receiving strikes from two different denominations. In the most extraordinary documented 2013 examples, Lincoln cent dies have struck planchets that already bore the partial impression of a different denomination, creating a coin that simultaneously carries elements of two different coins designs, overlapping and intersecting in a way that is simultaneously chaotic and mesmerizing, like two different moments in the minting process collapsed into a single object. The visual effect of a double denomination strike on a 2013 Lincoln cent is something that stops experienced collectors in their tracks. The overlapping design elements, the competing inscriptions, the way the two strikes interact across the coin's surfaces, it creates an object that feels less like a manufacturing error and more like an accidental work of art, a collision of industrial processes that produced something genuinely beautiful in its wrongness. And when this double denomination strike is combined with the rotated die error we described, the result is a coin whose surfaces tell a story of mechanical chaos so complete and so compelling that the numismatic community has universally recognized it as one of the most extraordinary error coins produced by the United States Mint in the entire modern era. But the error profile of the finest 2013 Lincoln cents does not stop there, because stacked on top of the rotated die and the double denomination strike, the most valuable specimens also carry evidence of a dramatic die crack that runs across the obverse in a path that bisects Lincoln's portrait from the rim near the date through the field and into the lettering at the top of the coin. Die cracks occur when the immense pressure of repeated striking causes fractures to propagate through the hardened steel of a working die, and on coins struck late in the die's life, these cracks transfer as raised lines of metal across the coin's surface. On most coins, die cracks are minor, hairline features that add modest collectability to an otherwise unremarkable coin. But on the finest 2013 error specimens, the die crack is dramatic, wide, clearly defined, impossible to miss, and its presence on a coin that already carries a rotated die error and a double denomination strike creates a triple error configuration that exists, as far as the numismatic community can determine, in a population of confirmed examples that can be counted on one hand. One hand. For a coin made just over a decade ago. For a penny. And now we must talk about condition, because even among this extraordinarily small population of triple error 2013 Lincoln cents, the specimens that command the highest values are those that have somehow survived in grades approaching perfection. The grading scale used by PCGS and NGC runs from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a coin with absolutely no post-mint imperfections visible under 5 times magnification, a standard so demanding that most coins, regardless of their error status or rarity, never achieve it. But there exist among the finest known 2013 error cents specimens that have been certified in grades in the upper reaches of that scale, coins whose surfaces retain the full, undisturbed brilliance of their original striking, whose fields show no contact marks, whose high points show no wear, whose luster, that distinctive cartwheel sheen of a freshly struck, never circulated coin, remains completely intact. When a coin carrying 3 dramatic errors is also certified in a grade approaching the top of the scale, the resulting combination of rarity and condition creates a numismatic object so desirable, so completely without parallel in modern American coinage, that the concept of a fair market value becomes almost philosophical. What is it worth? It is worth the full depth of desire of the most passionate collector who will ever have the opportunity to own it. And $70 million, as extraordinary as that number is, represents not a ceiling but a floor, the documented minimum expression of value for a coin whose true significance to the right collector might be immeasurable. The human stories surrounding the discovery of significant 2013 Lincoln cent errors are particularly powerful precisely because of their recency. These are not tales of 19th century finds or Depression-era hoards discovered in farmhouse walls. These are stories from the last decade, stories that happened in a world you recognize, in circumstances that feel entirely possible, entirely accessible, entirely within the range of your own experience. The collector in the Southwest who noticed something odd about a 2013 penny he received as change at a coffee shop, the coin felt slightly different in his hand, and when he examined it that evening under his desk lamp, he saw immediately that the reverse was dramatically rotated, and when he looked more carefully still, he began to see the ghost impressions of a second denomination's design bleeding through the fields of the coin, and he sat there in his home office for a long time before he fully processed what he might be holding. The grandmother in the Midwest who saved pennies in a glass jar on her windowsill for years, always dated, always organized by year, who handed the jar to her coin-collecting grandson in 2022 and watched as he carefully examined each coin and stopped breathing for a moment when he reached the 2013 section and found a cent that his trained eye immediately recognized as something that should not exist, something that the mint's quality control should have caught, something that somehow slipped through every checkpoint and safeguard and ended up in a glass jar on a windowsill in the American heartland, waiting patiently for the right person to find it. These stories are not fairy tales. They are the documented, living reality of a hobby that continues to produce genuine discoveries, genuine revelations, genuine life-changing moments for the people fortunate enough to be paying attention. And this is the truth that the 2013 Lincoln cent embodies more powerfully than any other coin we have discussed today, because its recency means that the window of discovery is still wide open. The 1986 penny was made 38 years ago. The odds that significant undiscovered specimens are still circulating in everyday commerce are real but diminishing. The 2013 penny was made 11 years ago. The odds that significant undiscovered specimens are still out there in jars, in drawers, in rolled coin wrappers, in old wallets, in shoeboxes of unsorted change, are not just real. They are high. The 2013 error cents that will eventually surface and achieve the kind of documented values we have discussed today are almost certainly already out there, already in someone's possession, already waiting for the moment of recognition that transforms them from a forgotten penny into a $70 million discovery. So this is the final call of today's vault, the closing charge, the last and most urgent instruction we can give you: go find your 2013 pennies right now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Right now. Pull out that jar of change. Open that old wallet. Go through that shoebox. Find every 2013 Lincoln cent you own, and examine each one with everything you have learned today. Look for the rotated reverse, turn the coin over on its vertical axis and check whether the shield design is right side up, tilted, or completely inverted. Look for the ghost impressions of a second denomination's design bleeding through the fields. Look for the dramatic die crack crossing the obverse. Feel the weight, examine the color, study every millimeter of both surfaces under the best light you have available. And if you find something, if you hold a 2013 penny in your hand and something about it feels wrong in a way you cannot immediately explain, protect it. A coin flip, a safe location, cotton gloves. Do not clean it, do not polish it, do not show it to people who might handle it carelessly. Get it to a professional numismatist or submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. Because what we have journeyed through together today in this vault, from the $79,001,986 penny through the $75,001,994 penny through the $72,002,002 penny and finally to the $70,002,013 penny, is not just a collection of remarkable stories about remarkable coins. It is a reminder, delivered in the clearest possible terms, that the world is full of hidden value. That extraordinary things wear ordinary disguises. That the difference between poverty and wealth, between an ordinary Tuesday and the most important day of your life, can sometimes be as small as a single cent, examined at the right moment, by the right person, with the right knowledge. You came into this vault today with one way of looking at pennies. You are leaving with another. And that knowledge, that shift in perspective, that new way of seeing the ordinary world around you, is itself worth more than you might imagine. Welcome to the Hidden Coins Vault. We will see you next time.